The coronavirus is raging across the world. The World Health Organization just declared it a pandemic. It has disrupted social life, social conventions are breaking, sports activities have been disrupted, schools are closing, and the death toll continues to rise. What is a coronavirus? How is it spread? What is the background? And Malawi hasn't yet registered a case of coronavirus. Do we have the capacity to handle it if it happens? With me today is Associate Professor Dailo Pempa from the Biology Department and Mr. Lucius Kalonga, Head of Chancellor College Clinic. They'll be taking us through the coronavirus and tell us more about what we need to do if it happens that we have registered a case of coronavirus in Malawi. My name is Raymond Siaya Jr. Welcome, Associate Professor Pempa and Mr. Lucius Kalonga.
Thank you so much.
Maybe let me start with you, Associate Professor Pempa. What is a coronavirus?
Coronavirus actually is a when we talk of coronavirus, we are talking about a group of viruses, and these include those that cause respiratory infections, like the one that cause what is popularly known as the first one, the N1H1, where we have the SARS, and the famous one, the Covid-19, which is also a SARS. That's why the actual name is SARS-CoV-19. Okay? So these actually cause the pneumonia-like infections in people.
Are they similar to any other viruses, or they're so unique?
Actually, this is a unique group, but they are similar. They have got cousins. That's what we can call. Their cousins are like the other flu viruses, because whenever you have got a flu, it is caused by a virus, but that it is not a COVID virus. Okay, it's not a coronavirus. Okay? The coronas are a different group that causes actually. It is more of severe respiratory infection, whereas the other viruses that cause the flu, they cause mild type of flu, sickness, where you are sick, you can still run around. But this one, it is actually fatal in some instances.
Mr. Kalonga, maybe what would be your take? How do you understand this virus?
As it has been rightly put, that this virus, it's a group of viruses, but this one I think is so specific, as it causes so-called the flu and the cough and the pneumonia-like signs and symptoms. In this group, we'll find that there is what we call rhino and adenoviruses, and these viruses, they cause flu as well. Now, this is speciality of the virus. It has to have an added sort of signs and symptoms, and one of them is this so-called what we call a dyspnea, a cough, fever, and above all, the person starts being weak each and every moment. If precautions are not taken, it can lead to death at that fertility level.
So, Professor Pempa, where are we coming from? How have we arrived at this now? We are now talking about coronavirus. What's the background?
Actually, your question is interesting. Where are we coming from? Okay. I would say the world actually got to know about the current viral condition that was in 2019 in December. Actually, it was in Wuhan, China, where doctors first noted these pneumonia-like illnesses with unknown causes. But the Chinese did their best actually. By end of December, they had deployed to the world the sequence of the virus, telling the world how the virus is constituted when we look at its RNA. Okay, and officially they informed WHO. That was on 31st December, and from that time, most of us are aware of how fast the virus has spread. Now to be declared a global pandemic last week by the WHO. In Wuhan, within a month, over 50,000 people were infected, and so far up to date they have registered around 3,800 deaths. And now every country in the world except very few have been affected. So you can appreciate the speed at which it is spreading, and even the fatality. It's a new condition, and most people are not, even scientists are learning about it, and that is what is so scary. And but the most critical thing is how fast it is spreading. And the moment you go into the acute respiratory distress phase, you need special care. If you don't have that, fatalities are very high. Yeah.
So, Mr. Karunga, there's so much talk about the virus coming from bats, and the bat eaten by a snake, and then it mutated in a human being, and now it's being passed from human to human. Maybe would you clarify on this? What's the truth?
I think myth might be circulating day in, day out with the coming of coronavirus. The behavior whereby people eat bats, snakes, and whatever, I think it is something which is just speculating because of the habits of other people, maybe the countries where this coronavirus started. For example, China. You look at the type of food they eat, it's junky most of the times. But if you look at on the same, you go to United States, for example, you go to Spain, for example, you find that maybe their eating habits might be different. But the evolution of this, it might be coming from that type of habit of eating junky stuff, as per the speculation. However, it doesn't spare who when it comes to its pandemic line, because it is even spreading to the people who actually are taking what we call the special food, the special sort of diet, which maybe they are out of this so-called junky stuff. So that's actually how it is. I can highlight on that.
Maybe if you could add, Professor Pemba, is it true it came from bats and then it mutated in a human being and is now being transmitted from human to human?
I will tackle it from a very scientific point of view, because when they did the sequence, I said the Chinese, they sequenced the genome of this virus and deployed it to the world to see. They did that for several purposes. One, when you have got the genome, you can know the relationship of that organism or that virus or whatever you are dealing with the other organisms, how closely related they are. And at the same time, when you talk of diagnosis to know that somebody has got this disease, it's based on the genome. Now, when other scientists look at the genome of this virus, the Covid-19 virus, what they have noted is that it has got roughly about 98, if not 95% resemblance to the genome of this similar virus you find in pangolins and in bats. Now, because just like if you look at the apes, man is 98% closely related to chimpanzee, and people speculate, oh, we came from chimpanzee. That's why for this one, people have been speculating, so okay, this jumped from the pangolins or the bats, and how maybe people were eating, they had them as pets. That is the whole basis of that.
Now, I have a problem, and many as well who are also watching us, they have this problem. Why is it China, most of these pandemics or epidemics, why is it that they rise from China? I remember SARS, we had it also came from China. And if you look at the history of pandemics or epidemics, China, India, which are highly populated, why is that the case?
Okay, actually, first I should say, it would not be right to assert that this is most of the pandemics or epidemics are coming from China or India. Let's take, for example, we have had Ebola. Okay, we have had other hemorrhagic fevers. If you talk of like dengue or chikungunya specifically, West Nile virus, actually even the name tells you where they come from Africa. There are other diseases like cholera that actually scientists speculate that it came from, of course, India. I have to point out that our Chinese colleagues, they are technologically they are very much advanced. So they imagine if this COVID was here in Africa, we wouldn't know what it is. Actually, hospitals would just be saying people are having pneumonia, this is pneumonia, this is pneumonia. But our colleagues, they were able to quickly know this is a strain pneumonia, and they were able to sequence it, meaning to isolate the virus and know the whole genome, how it is, it has been composed. Because we know a virus is made up of a capsid and the RNA inside. They were able to do that. So the fact that they have got good technology to know when a strange thing happens, that's why we can easily know there's something coming up. So that we should say it is a plus.
Yeah. Mr. Ramon, is there anything to add?
Yeah, I was still thinking that maybe the eating habits might be contributing to that. If you look at our friends, let's say in this China, India, sometimes they don't mind what we eat. They eat whatever is in the plate, right? And now, as the Associate Professor Pemba has already highlighted, that this thing might be coming from the bat because of the shape which comes from it, as man come from the ape, right? These speculations which are coming, they might be coming a little bit harder in a way that it's contributing to the way those people take their meals, per se. Africa, in particular, I'm not trying to make it like something which is our country though, but the eating habits are a little bit better than what actually the Western culture talks about. Even in other diseases like the hypertension, even other diseases like cancer, it all depends on how these people take their type of food. Right? So the eating habits might have a micro contributions towards the coming of COVID.
Okay, so just a Professor Pemba, we have also heard that this virus has a latency period of 14 days, some are saying 20 days. How true is that?
You have asked a question like how long does a human being live? There are several factors actually that contribute to the duration of the incubation period for the virus to cause a disease in a human person, in a human being. For some, within 2 days, signs start manifesting that, okay, this person has contracted the virus and is sick. For some, it has been recorded up to 29 days. Okay, so it depends on your body, the immunity, the other underlying healthy issues about your body. It's all that, but on average, for most people, by the 14th day, you can tell that the person is sick. That's why you see when they talk of quarantine, isolation, the cutoff point, countries have agreed to say, okay, generally, by end of 2 weeks, 14th day, somebody should at least show some signs and symptoms. Of course, there are a few individuals who may go beyond that, maybe 23, 20 days, that's when they show symptoms. So we can say roughly on average, a normal person, a normal body will show symptoms and signs by 14 days.
By 14 days. Mr. Kalonga, how important is quarantining people?
Quarantining, it's a process whereby you isolate a victim of a certain disease to a very quiet and place whereby it cannot infect the other. And on the same line, it's like you are making sure that if, for example, we're talking of COVID, coronavirus, we are saying that it's a virus, and the healing process, the virus doesn't have the actual treatment per se. So with the signs and supportive treatment which is given, within that period of 14 to 28 days we are talking about here, you might find that some of these signs and symptoms are phasing out without infecting the other. That's why there is what we call the gear, the type of the PPE we call them, whereby you need actually to protect yourself not to have it, to make sure that if an individual has it, it has to be that individual and that individual only. That's why even people are trying to put a room, a quarantine room, which is outside anybody who is healthy. So quarantism or quarantine is like a process whereby you make sure that you are isolating that individual, not to infect or to be reinfected on the same realm, to avoid this pandemic coming to its extreme.
No, take us through. I've seen people running away from being quarantined. They don't want to be quarantined. Take us through. What happens when you want to quarantine people?
You know, when we want to quarantine people, we check on the clinical manifestations or the signs and symptoms which are coming. For example, having all these so-called the signs of corona, all right, and somebody still has what we call the sense of denial to accept that I've had this corona. He comes in, he feels like the best is like, okay, let me see it on my own, and that's a delaying tactic, because it is advisory to say, if you are having all these signs of corona, please just rush to the clinic where or to the health center or the health institutions, where they will make sure that they have started this so-called preventive measure as soon as possible. As it is rightly put, other countries are doing it because they've got resources. Malawi, we need to learn, and we need actually to cushion our mind to make sure that when we see these signs are coming in, please don't shy to meet the clinic or the hospital for quarantine process to be done. Don't run away from quarantine, because that's where your life is, and that's where other people's life are saved.
Professor, how dangerous, if you are thinking about coronavirus, how do you think this virus is so dangerous?
Okay. The dangers of the COVID, SARS-CoV-19, actually, it has got several dimensions. The first one, which is the worst part, is we talked of the incubation period of an average of 14 days, where for somebody to be realized that, okay, I'm sick, it takes some time. Most of the time, during that time, you are already passing the disease to other people. You yourself, you are not aware that you are sick, but you are passing the disease to other people. And that actually amplifies the number of individuals who are now infected. Okay? According to the documents I was following up yesterday, they were saying one individual in a week, he can infect over 56 people. So it is that exponential increase in the cases that overwhelm the system. In that the hospitals, suddenly they get a lot of people who are sick. Okay? And when the health system is overwhelmed, then the patients do not get enough help. The second part about its dangers is that if you look, there are three categories of individuals who get infected and how the disease progresses in them. The first category are what we call the asymptomatic. These are the ones the virus gets in them, it will show no symptoms or signs. Life goes on. And these are quite, they can be quite dangerous, because they are the ones who go around, no quarantine. There's no reason for you to quarantine them, and they're passing the disease. Then there's a second category that is called the mild ones, the ones who develop mild disease, okay, symptoms, like sneezing, sore throat, you can have mild fever, okay? And then we have got the third category. Actually, the second group, the first group is about 80%. Then we have got something around 13% who have mild symptoms, and then we have got the last less than 10%, about 8%, it varies depending on the settings, who develop very bad symptoms, okay? And these are the ones now where you have respiratory failure. This is where now the pneumonia hits the lungs so hard that the lungs, they get filled up with water, and the mucus, all these dying cells because of what is called cytokine storm. When it reaches that stage, then that's where you need to put somebody in the intensive care unit. They need to be on respirators. And the doctors have got now to suck out all this fluid in the lungs so that the lungs will be able to take oxygen. Okay? So you can see this is now the second danger of it, that you go into that respiratory distress. And the third danger is that there's no medication for it. This is where you just have to wait for your body to fight it. Okay? Yeah.
Okay, why is it that we still have no medication for it? Is it because it's new or what?
That's a very good question. Actually, the world has been struggling with that question. I wish I could answer that question with a straightforward answer, because you can see, like HIV up to now, we don't have medication. We have got medicines that just suppresses the virus so that it should not continue destroying the body. Our immune system should be able to recover. But the virus will still be there. That's why you have to keep on taking the medication. We have got measles. Okay? We have got all the flus that people suffer from. That's why whenever you have got a flu, we say don't take antibiotics. It will not help. You just have to wait for the body to fight the infection. And okay, the whole underlying thing is that the way the virus operates, the virus is just like a particle that would attach to your cell. So it attaches to part of your body. And whatever medication you want it to design to kill the virus, it has first to kill your cells. That means you are killing yourself. And the scientists take advantage that when the virus is replicating, because it has to come out of the cell, okay, where we have got the messenger RNAs and all that. That's where you can block it. When it detaches from the cell, okay, for it to multiply, that's why you block it so that it should not continue multiplying. That's the whole basis of ARVs. Yeah. But the actual treatment is, okay, let's kill the virus. As scientists, we have failed. God will help us. One day He will reveal to us how to do that. But as of now, we don't have the answer.
Is there anything to add?
Yes, I feel so amazing with the way Prof has answered it. However, what we have to know is the virus, the way it was made, even in the hospitals or wherever we are, whenever somebody has got a flu, we give what we call supportive treatment, right? Supportive treatment like the painkillers, like cough suppressants and all these so-called nasal decongestants. The reason is like we just want to clear that, but water might be the best treatment for it. And even everybody who has got a viral infection has to make sure that the water has to be the very first priority that treats that individual. People, we have been actually try to cheat each other, that we take for instance, we say a code, all right? The code, we go to the antibiotic. Antibiotic is just a supportive, because different people have got different immunity levels. The older have got what we call the low immunity levels. Those people who are actually immunosuppressed, they are the people who are vulnerable for the infection. For example, the COVID-19. People who are actually suffering more than the people who are, their immunity is low. You look at the age, they are the people who are actually having problems, who are dying heavily. And you look at those people maybe who are actually on the other diseases which have suppressed their immunity. Those people becomes a danger to the COVID-19.
So that reminds me, they're also saying, as you put it, the aged are so susceptible. Those with diabetes are also so susceptible. And we're also hearing that those with underlying respiratory conditions are also susceptible. Is that true?
Yes, it is true, because if you look at the low respiratory infections, already the lungs are already congested. And this virus, when it comes in the lungs, it just adds up, making it more congested, that even the air going inside and coming outside might have a problem. But what kills more, when there is no oxygen coming out of the body, and if there is more carbon dioxide remaining in the system, somebody becomes what we call cyanotic, right? You find for the whites, you find somebody is having a blue skin, blue tongue, and all this stuff. And immediately, if we see these things happening, we rush for this oxygen circulation machine, like the oxygen concentrators, to make sure that I think we are just beefing up the oxygen to be coming out of the body. However, we look at the age, for example. The cells are tired, all right? When the cells are tired, no matter what, when we reach that vicious cycle of age, when our life is in the afternoons, as per se, at what people say, you find that even people fail to jog, fail to do a lot of work, and that's a sign whereby it says this body is becoming weak. And you look at the countries whereby a lot of people have died, like the Spain, you find that it's the aged. It's like it is wiping the old generation, it's leaving the new generation. All this is coming because of the immune sort of deficiency in the system of an individual. The youth, I remember there was a jubilation of the youth when this was made in the presentation in Great Hall. The youth are strong, their immunity is strong, those people that do a lot of activities. But that does not necessitate that the youth cannot die, because in other countries, a few doctors have died at the age of 30, and this is the youth most time. So we are not actually to leave this like a laissez-faire type of approach in making things. COVID can kill anybody, but it depends on the percentage of the individual and based on the age of the individual and the immunity too.
If you are just joining us, you are watching a special program on SARS-CoV-19, so-called coronavirus, and we have experts who are demystifying, telling us the facts about coronavirus. There's so much fake news being posted on social media about coronavirus, but today we are hearing the facts from experts, and we have Associate Professor Pemba from the Biology Department, Chancellor College, as well as Mr. Lucius Kalonga, who is the head of Chancellor College Clinic. And this other part where we are going now, we'll be talking about the capacity. Malawi hasn't registered a case yet. Is it true we have no coronavirus outside there? If we have, what capacity do we have? And how does Chancellor College come in? Malawi, as of now, as of yet, we have no coronavirus case. Nowhere is it reported that in Malawi we have a coronavirus case. Do we have it out there? Do you think we have it out there, or we really don't have any? Because all our neighbors, they have reported cases of coronavirus. Associate Professor Pemba.
Okay. For you to know that you have coronavirus, what you need to do is do proper diagnosis. And as of now, the WHO recommended way of diagnosis, according to their final communique released on the 22nd of March, which is just 2 days ago, you have to use the molecular tools, the PCR. There are other ways you can do the diagnosis, like the immunoassays. Those are what we call, there are two types of immunoassays, the rapid test kit, and we have got the ELISA, and there are many more, but these two are the most common. Now, for you to do the diagnosis, you need what is called the primers. Okay? These are specific parts of the sequence of the RNA that will tell you this person has got coronavirus. What this country faces as of now is that there has been no institution that has been supplied the primers. Okay, the Ministry of Health, yes, they said they have got the capacity to do that, but up to now, as you can see, there has been no running of PCRs. They have got the machines. Even Chancellor College here, we have got the machines. Honestly, if we are given the primers, we would take just a day or two, and then we'll be able to start telling people, okay, you have got coronavirus or not. Okay? Actually, we have been struggling to make arrangements. That's another big story, to get those things. But all the machinery for detecting we have. For the ministry as of now, as I put it, they were orienting their people, they were standardizing their machines. So, okay, when you don't have those things in place, how can you claim that you don't have coronavirus? Or how can you claim that you have got coronavirus? So that's the reality of the situation of Malawi. So we can say it is one of the countries where diagnosis has not been made because of these limitations in the capacity of diagnosis.
Doctor, you are a doctor, Mr. Lalonga. How do you feel about that when you hear that from Professor?
Well, it's something which is a threat to Malawi, right? Because we are doing these things on a blunt atmosphere, whereby we don't know. Because, for example, if there are a lot of flu which are coming in contact, especially this season, and you might find that another type of flu is a little bit advanced than the other. In a way, it's trying to present the signs and symptoms. But for you to come up with this, it's very, very difficult and challenging. All right. Now, what that cannot actually hinder us to have what we call quarantine process if we suspect somebody. Because quarantine somebody doesn't necessarily mean that that person has been found with coronavirus. But it's like he has got all these so-called clinical manifestations which are coming in, and in Malawi, for it to be safe, that I think he hasn't actually gone to other individuals. We did actually to make sure that this is actually true flu, a flu which is so common in Malawi, our natural flu which we know can be treated without problems. However, when this process of quarantine is happening, we look at the history of somebody who has traveled, all right, and is coming from other countries. And that might be a point whereby to take to make somebody so suspicious if he comes with also called a bunch of signs and symptoms. Because for us to wait for the signs that I think it has been detected in Malawi and that we take that individual to the quarantine line, I think we might be losing a lot of souls. That's why even the Minister of Health and the government is in actually making emphasis on the preventive measure. Preventive measure in the say that I think we have to make sure that whenever we are greeting, because even the style of greeting this time it has changed. People now they're greeting with legs, with elbows and all this stuff. Reason it's like we are trying to make sure that I think we haven't made this pandemic globally to be pandemic in Malawi. However, the president has already denounced it openly, saying this is a pandemic, and all precautions have been taken. But what we have to do is like what those precautions again they're in line with just preventing that Malawi can't reach that stage, despite that we haven't registered in one case.
So, Professor, it makes sense for the president to order shutdown of schools, congregations, churches, religious congregations not to be in groups of more than 100. It makes sense.
Prevention is better. Even for HIV, if you go to the history of HIV, most people do not know that actually scientists realized how one can protect himself or herself from HIV before they even discovered the virus that was causing the problem. So I think Malawi is still in that situation where we know how we can protect ourselves, we know how we can protect the society, even though we have not yet set everything for the actual diagnosis. I'm very optimistic because the things are working at a very fast pace. Maybe in the next few days, the country will have that capability to be doing the diagnosis. But it makes sense to declare actually that state of disaster that the president declared. And in my opinion, as a scientist, I would say he should have gone a step further. I'm saying this because we have been talking about the issue of quarantine. What you are doing in quarantine is creating what is called social space. You are isolating an individual from others. To protect oneself from the COVID-19, what is needed is minimize contact with others. Now, I'll put it in a very simple way. We say the government has actually directly, that one is, it's giving us a starting point. Say, okay, don't be in groups like 100. It has to be less. What they are trying to say is, if you have got a place, you have to be where you are not congested. Okay? And the fact that there are less people, the chance of one of them having the virus also gets low, so that the chances of passing it gets minimized. But the most important thing is this. If you have got a room that is very small, and you have got 50 people packed in there, okay? You are actually touching each other tightly, like the way we do in the minibuses. No? Can you squeeze so that you know, even if you are 30, you are still defeating the purpose of that 100 number. So what the president has done is good, but Malawians should take a step further by actually minimizing congestion. It bothers me to see people in these taxi centers packed, tightly packed, and they are saying they are going to church, and the church has put in place mechanism to say we only allow 80 people around. These people, they are tightly packed. So what are we doing? Okay, yeah. And we have got another situation where the restaurants, the eating places along the road and whatever, they have not been actually touched much. Yet we know the virus is passed through fluids from the nose, the mouth. Okay, yeah, you go to a place where you want to buy food, and the way they cleaned the cutlery, the forks and the knives, they just swipe them in water and give you. Okay, so as Malawians, we have to know the pandemic is here. I shouldn't say it is out there. Okay, it is here. We need to be very proactive. We need to be very proactive. We need to go a step further than what the government has just put forward to us.
Do you concur?
Just to add what Prof has said, on my opinion, I think I was worried so much on the prisons, because you look at the congestion which is actually in the prison line, and you look at the mode on how these things are being transmitted, you find that the prisoners are at risk, high risk for that matter. But I know surely it's a dilemma that if possibly they can't release all the prisoners, then I think there will be something which will be so chaotic outside. But if need be, the space for those people, even in the prisons, I think was supposed to be, if we indeed want to prevent it, then I think we could declare total isolation to those individuals. But how we can do it, I think, Lord have mercy, I don't know how we can do it, but it's necessary.
Okay, one more myth that I wanted us to bust is I've seen some posts on social media saying they are wondering why Africa is not hardest hit because our health system is not robust enough, and some are saying no, it's because Africa is very hot, it's the tropical region, it's very hot, so coronavirus cannot survive in hot conditions, and that's why maybe Africa, including Malawi, we still haven't reported any coronavirus case. Is that true?
Okay. We have already touched on the capacity to do the diagnosis. Africa, a good example is Malawi. Let's be realistic. Our Ministry of Health and the other institutions, they did not have the capacity. And until when the pandemic is here, that's when you are struggling to set up the equipment and the making people that the right people are in place. So you cannot claim to say, actually WHO 3 days ago released a statement saying they are worried that those countries that are not reporting, it does not mean that the pandemic is not there, but it strongly indicates lack of capacity to do the diagnosis. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing we have to know that how the corona actually moved, the coronavirus moved from China to Europe. It has been following what we can call the great transportation routes. Okay, there is a lot of traffic, a lot of people flowing between Asia, Europe, America, and that traffic actually is slower as you come to the south. That's why it was easier for the corona to be in South Africa and jump us. Okay, so that is the one thing. apart from failure to do the diagnosis that it could be already here, but we are failing to detect it, first. The second thing is that we are isolated. As some people put it, we are in the bush. So that's why it has taken some time, and that is an advantage to us, because you see, the Chinese, they had to struggle, what is this and all that. We are at an advantage. We have prior information of what it is, how you can protect yourself and all that. But we should never cheat ourselves to say the environmental conditions are so hot, harsh, that the virus will not survive. Zero. Actually, as if you look at Malawi and other countries, I'll give you an example. Italy gets far much hotter than Malawi. Okay, if you are in Japan in the summer, it is very uncomfortable than Malawi. Okay, okay, how is the virus surviving out there? And the other myth that people are talking about is, oh no, black people, they cannot. Now actually it is showing that even black individuals are victims. Let's take an example of South Africa, Zimbabwe. It's now actually what is called local transmission. It's being transmitted among the local people. So all these are based on uninformed decisions. That's what I would say. Because some people, they tend to, just to come up with what they have convinced themselves to believe, and they sell it to others. And if you are not careful nowadays, you just believe on anything, you'll be misled. So that's why it is important to always get information from the right sources.
Mr. Kalonga, Chancellor College, how does it come in? We know Chancellor College is now closed, but we still have staff around. You now, how do you come in as Chancellor College?
Yeah, let me just take you a little bit of the background on how organized Chancellor College has been in as far as the issues of COVID-19 is concerned. The moment there was a rumor that there is a COVID-19 coming, management instituted so-called a committee to look onto issues of COVID. And when the press release of the president declaring that, I think this is pandemic, college has to be closed, there were all institutions that put in place to make sure that whatever comes, we have to make control. For example, we were afraid that the community of more than about 6,000 plus so-called members of staffs and families are in here. And this community is full of people who move outside and come in. All right, which means in any way, we might be the victims of this so-called corona, COVID-19. Because people can go to South Africa, some people they go to outside the countries. But the moment this was instituted and this advisory committee had to put in place advising the management to make sure that people's travels are a little bit controlled. And on top of that, we have been having the mechanism to make sure that this preventive measure aspect is being enhanced more than the curative aspect. Because on the curative aspect, we don't have the acute treatment. Whatever treatment which is there is just supportive treatment. And as of now, Chancellor College, since the college has closed, it hasn't actually phased out the way it is moving to make sure that the staff members as well as families and the community are protected from this COVID-19. But the college has instituted the quarantine house, which is there ready, and the college is in the process of purchasing all this so-called protective gear, which is some of these things are in here. And the college is still instituted of purchasing things which are disinfected to make sure that each and every corner of it is COVID-19 free, all right? In a way that we are putting the college not to be under panic. Because even when the president didn't actually disclose by then, we had the hopes that I think we can put everything in place, and that pace of hope hasn't actually been decreased, but we are still moving in other ways. College is somehow for it, but ready to protect the college as a community, as well as the other external communities, which there are families and staff and other people who are surrounding us. So these things have got the hub whereby the clinic is actually making all the efforts to make sure that these PPEs are put in place, and everybody who comes in is well interacted, and making sure that if somebody is having what we call traceable signs and symptoms, immediately we make action there and then.
Maybe if you could add, Prof, as Chancellor College, what is it that is happening on the ground?
Okay. Chancellor College is a large community, and as the head of the college clinic has put it, this is one of the places where people travel a lot. As I've already alluded earlier, traveling has been one of the key factors in spreading this. And that's why the management put in place what is called the Covid-19 Technical Advisory Committee. Actually, myself and Mr. Kalonga, we are members of that committee. That's why we are giving this interview to make sure that the Chancellor College community and the wider community out there, they have got the right information. If you remember, Chancellor College had the public lecture. That was a few weeks ago. That was done by the name public lecture. It was intended to give everybody, every Jim and Jack, the opportunity to hear about COVID-19 from reliable scientific and medical personnel, not from social media, because we have talked of myth and all that. That one gave an opportunity for anybody who has got burning issues, questions and all that to ask. That was the first step. The second step, as the head of the clinic has put it, is that this committee, which is advising the management, listed down what is supposed to be done in terms of having necessary materials and infrastructure in place to deal with any case of COVID that might be identified among the community, and also to put in place preventive control measures, issues like the protective equipment. That's why we have acquired, and we are still acquiring more, like face masks, gloves, gowns, okay, goggles for the health workers. And there are also some individuals who are working in sensitive places where you get a lot of people coming in, like the library. Okay, you have got thousands of people walking in and out there. You don't know where they're coming from, where they have been, what is the status of their health in relation to the COVID-19. That's why if you go to the library as of now, you find that we have put in place the sanitary materials. You will be required, actually, just before you enter, you will be required to have your hands sanitized. Okay? And you see that the people who are there, they are also supposed to have the face masks, because they are having a lot of people. You go to the senior common room, it is the same thing. You go to the administrative block. We have started with these key areas where a lot of people come traveling from all over the world, and we are proceeding to cover the whole campus. This actually, it did not actually have to take place because of the government declaration. Chancellor College had it in place, okay? And actually, even the issue of releasing the students so that they go home, it was already one of the possible items that we are saying we just needed to seek advice from the government when and how we can do it. Okay, as I'm talking now, you know, South Africa is in a lockdown. UK, Italy, Chancellor College is not asleep. It has taken a step further. Okay, informing the staff members to get prepared, to say if the worst comes to the worst, be prepared that you may be required to operate from home, to work from home. Okay, so as you can see, Chancellor College has put in place a lot of protective mechanisms. Beside that, the clinic, we are doing our best to make sure that it has got the necessary tools to deal with the COVID case, because for sure, if COVID comes in Zomba, the experience has been, one of the dangers, as I said, is the overwhelming of the medical system. We have got Zomba Central Hospital. It is better that the Chancellor College, which is also a large community, should provide a backup to the Central Hospital. okay, so that not all cases should be handled at the central hospital. Some of the cases we can, our facilities here can handle them. So actually we are supporting what the government is already putting in place.
Okay.
Yes.
Finally, as we are getting to the end of the program, remind us, Dr. Mr. Kalonga, what are the symptoms and signs of SARS-CoV-19?
To sum up the symptoms and signs of COVID-19, it's like there's fever, there's a cough, there's a running nose, and there is what we call dyspnea, shortness of breath, and there is sometimes you might find irritation and the confusion can come in because of the severity of the infection in it. And one you know is like people have to actually to know that immunity plays a very big role in as far as the COVID-19 is concerned, because once your immunity is strong, the chances of having it might be a little bit slim. That does not necessarily that you can't have it, you can still have it. But again, there are some of the supportive treatment which are given to those individuals. For example, if you see somebody is having the pneumonia, we cover up with something like to cover on what we do with pneumonia. Fever, we control the fever and all this stuff. So these are the clinical manifestations, these are the signs which we have to be on the lookout. Once you have a history of travel, or somebody has traveled and has been in your family and you are affected as well, those are the type of cases you have to be sensitive and go straight to the clinic or the nearest hospital to be assisted to have a proper diagnosis, while we are making what we call a confirmatory diagnosis from the laboratory, which is still in the pipeline. It's moving at a slow pace.
And Prof, how is it spread? Maybe if you could remind us, how is this SARS-CoV-19, how is it passed from one person to another?
Okay. The virus is passed through contact of body fluids. And when we talk of body fluids, we are talking of saliva, mucus. Okay? You have got like spittle. When I'm speaking like this, there'll be some droplets coming out. Okay? And actually scientists have discovered that the body sheds the virus through so many ways, like the tears. Okay, it has been found in the stools and even in the urine. Okay, but the major way that it is spread is by contact of the body fluids that come from the mouth, the nose. Okay, that's why you see the issue of the face mask. Okay? And people ask them, okay, how do I contract it? It's because you're talking of saliva. Don't touch somebody's saliva. What happens is, as we speak, there are tiny droplets that move. They can move up to about 1.8 meters away. Okay, that's why they are talking of social space. That if you are in a group, you have to stay at least 2 meters apart. Okay, the whole aim is that these droplets should not move and land on you, because if they land on an object and you immediately touch it, the virus will stick to your hand. That's why we are saying, okay, doorknobs. If I feel like sneezing, I will sneeze into my palms, and then I touch the door. You come, you touch it. I'm boarding a minibus. I touch the chairs. The seats. Somebody will come and touch all that. Then it just becomes a chain. In church, I'm touching the seat handles and all that. Whoever comes next to you is also touching that. That is how this is spread, and that's why there is an emphasis for hand washing. That every time you want to eat, you have touched some things, please wash your hands either with the soap and water. If you don't have that, we have got a backup, what we call the hand sanitizers. Okay, you can use the hand sanitizers, and that's why it also goes into this issue of use of face masks. Actually, this one I should point out that the general public is not encouraged to use the face mask for two reasons. The first one, most people do not know how to use the face mask and how to take them off. If you are a health worker, you have been trained on how to put on a face mask and take it off so that you should not infect or contaminate yourself. The same thing with the gloves. And most of the people you see, they will put a face mask, the way they put it wrong way, the way they take it wrong way, that's the first thing. And actually, you find that if you use it, you might be an asymptomatic carrier, okay? That thing gets highly concentrated with the virus, and even the disposal and whatever. Actually, it was disappointing for me on Sunday to see that at a certain church they were using face masks for ushers, and they were just removing them, throwing them out, and kids were running around picking them. We don't need that scenario. The second thing is that the face masks, they are better used for those who are sick. You remember we have said this comes out, the infection can come out as droplets. When you cover yourself, you minimize that. Okay? And for the health workers, because they are in close control with the individuals who are actually confirmed to be sick, they need to be protected. In the event of isolation, okay, that is somebody is at home, is sick, those who are taking care of this individual, then they are also mandated to put on the face mask. But if we just rush to put on face mask thinking we are protecting ourselves, actually what we are doing is we know there's a global shortage of face masks. Those who really need them, the sick people, the ones who be taking care of the sick people, and the health workers may not have access to this because we have bought them and abused them.
There then we come to the end of this special program. We have had panelists, that's Associate Professor Pemba from the Biology Department, Chancellor College, as well as Head of Chancellor College Clinic, Mr. Lucius Kalonga. They have been demystifying the coronavirus, and they have been telling us facts. We need to make informed decisions. We need to know the truth about coronavirus. Till next time, when we'll come with another program, my name is Raymond Siaya Jr.